Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort in commentary, Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And this episode of NXT, I felt like was quite wonderful. We had some upsets, we had some flashes of dominance, and we had a brilliant NXT championship match. Ashton, what do you think of this?
I absolutely love this NXT, if for no other reason because it really stood out as almost like a pay-per-view episode of NXT. Like, this felt like a huge deal. Like, this episode of NXT felt like a more well-done first show on a new time slot than SmackDown tomorrow looks like it's going to be.
Absolutely, completely agree. You know, they were making a big deal out of this move to Wednesday nights, and this first show really made it feel like that, you know, big deal atmosphere was legitimate, was well earned. So with that said, let's get right into our first segment. Heat of the night. I have 0 heats of the night tonight. What about you, Ashton?
I don't have any heats of the night, but I do want to specify the only thing that I can actually complain about on this show is that we had one talking segment throughout the entire show. That's it. One. And the reason it's not a heat of the night is because I love that they're varying up the format of the show like this.
Right.
Tonight
Yeah,
we had 4 matches, 2 of which went for a really good amount of time, one of which went for a moderate amount of time, one of which was actually, I mean, not full-on squash, but like 1.5 to 2 minute squash, and one talking segment, and it didn't feel like an incomplete show.
No, it didn't. And you want to talk about the format of the show? I mean, I'll get right into it. We have a cold open, which, I mean, Raw, take notes, because we immediately go into...
Are you doing a cold open without introducing that we're doing an NXT review now?
Oh, yeah, I
dig
guess
it.
you could say that.
No, don't do it now. It's perfect.
Yeah, but I mean, straight away we get Tyson Kidd versus Finn Balor, and I love it. You know, we open up with a match that I thought would have been like the semi-main event or something, like, you know, just get the crowd hyped up. Finn Balor's entrance, I will say, even though he didn't do the body paint or anything, he just has such control of his environment. I love it. He even works his own entrance. Like, I don't say that about many people. The guy's a genius between the ropes, I'm telling you.
Everyone talks about, Bray Wyatt is the next Undertaker. I say Finn Balor is more Undertaker-like as far as everything that really matters, everything tangible, everything that goes beyond just, he has a supernatural gimmick. You know what I mean? Like, he has that crowd control. He has the amazing, ridiculously, what's the word? Cinematic?
Cinematic presence. Like, that
entrance is what I was going to say. Entrance.
Like,
but yeah, he does. I mean, the presence is there too. And even though one of the most defining characteristics of The Undertaker was that he was a giant who could move like a cruiserweight, I think Finn Balor is closer to that description than Bray Wyatt, because Bray Wyatt is neither one of those, and at least Finn Balor moves like a cruiserweight.
Yeah, you know, absolutely. Finn Balor to me. And I mean, in this match, he went straight for the jugular. He tried putting this one away early. I think he did a violent drop kick to Tyson Kidd in the corner early on, and he tried going for his double stomp, but Tyson had it scouted. So you could really feel like a sense of urgency with Finn Balor in this match, and I loved commentary because they were building up, you know, well, Hideo's not here, and he won his singles match last week, so now, you know, this is kind of Finn Balor's test. So you could see, like, he was really itching to get it done. And I enjoyed this match that these two guys put on, Ashton.
Yeah, they didn't put on what I would necessarily consider to be like OMG pay-per-view main event 5-star kind of match, but this is the kind of match that I can honestly say was a pay-per-view quality match. It was felt like it was maybe 10 to 12 minutes. It was like the second match on a pay-per-view card. Like, it has just the right amount of build-up that you care. It has the good enough workers to make you get invested that quickly, and the finish worked out really well.
Absolutely. You know, Tyson even got a little bit of his offense in. They really built up a great moment where he had Finn Balor in the sharpshooter, and he pulled it back when Finn was getting close to the ropes the first time, so he really had to dig down deep to get there and make the break, and commentary really made it seem like, yeah, Alex Riley came right out and said Finn Balor's earned his stripes, after escaping that submission hold and enduring it. So, after a bit more back and forth, Finn Balor does get his double stomp submission, or not submission, but off the top rope maneuver, and he gets the 3 count. So Finn Balor does beat Tyson Kidd.
Yeah. I mean, we all kind of expected this.
Yeah, definitely.
It's gotten to the point now where it's kind of scary because it's starting to feel like NXT is building up Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, Adrian Neville, Kevin Owens, and Baron Corbin, all as potential NXT championship contenders at the same time. And it's just starting to feel really crowded at the top.
Yeah, it's a really crowded pool. But, I think that's when you have a really exciting time because, how great is it to say that we have 5 potential top contenders rather than just one at a time coming out of like an assembly line.
Yeah.
So, it's quite nice. After this matchup, I think we got our video package highlighting Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville from NXT TakeOver Our Evolution, if I'm not mistaken. Then I believe we did get that one talking segment of the night.
Yeah, the Bull Dempsey interview with Devin Taylor, yep.
Yeah, Devin. And Devin's like, Bull, you're going against the undefeated Baron Corbin. How do you feel? And then Bull's like, well, let's get something straight, Devin. First of all, Baron Corbin's not the only undefeated superstar in this match. And second of all, he's pretty much just said he's going to punch Baron Corbin's lights out in his fight. He says he doesn't even want to call it a fight. He wants to call it Baron Corbin's end of days. And when it's over, he's going to be looking up, and the only thing he's going to hear, the last thing he's going to hear, is Bull, Bull, Bull. So, yeah, great promo there, Dempsey.
Yeah.
After that, we go into Bull Dempsey versus Baron Corbin. And you know what, Ashton? For everything that you and I talked about in preceding episodes, what we wanted this match to be, I have to say, personally, I thought they did this perfectly. This is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
I think it would have been hilarious if it was like one of those 15-second to 20-second squash matches, but we knew that wasn't going to happen given, who Bull Dempsey is. So they had a nice little back and forth. I liked how they had one really quick pace where it really did feel like a fight the entire time, dropping bombs, with their fists, just right hands left and right. Then finally, they got back in the ring because they had a scuffle outside the ring that went to like a 7 count. They both get back in the ring. Baron tries taking control, but Bull Dempsey overpowers him, and then Bull tries to get something, and then Baron overpowers him. And then finally, I think Bull does get like an offensive maneuver. Yeah, he collides into Baron, tries to go for the headbutt. Baron moves out of the way, hooks Dempsey up for the end of days. He hits it in what I considered a beautiful visual considering Amanda Dempsey's size, and Baron Corbin gets the 3 count.
Yep. And, hey, no matter how quick that end of days might have been, the fact that he was able to lift somebody as large as Bull Dempsey into it is really, really telling about his potential.
Definitely. I think this match really put him on the map because of that power display. I think.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you really think about it, if you kind of look at, like, Goldberg is a perfect example. There are certain moves that a guy just should not use as his finisher unless he can do it to everybody. And, like, with Goldberg, when he first was trying to figure out if he should use the jackhammer as his finisher, he brought the Big Show in and tried to figure out if he could keep him up or at least get him up into a jackhammer. And when he realized that he could, he said, okay, well, that's the biggest guy here. So if I can get him up into it, I can get everyone up into it. So I'm going to keep it. And he stuck with it. And obviously it worked out. Well, I mean, obviously Braun Strowman hasn't debuted yet. So Bull Dempsey is probably the heaviest guy who's been on NXT right now. So I think that was a great thing for him to show.
And again, like the finisher in itself, from an aesthetic point, just looks so nice. And when you see it against a guy of Bull Dempsey's size, it just looks so impressive to me. And one person that I never thought I'd give credit for, and I'm only going to do it here because it'd be weird to give him a high spot, Alex Riley's commentary was very good tonight.
Yeah.
And he had a great ending soundbite for me. He said, is anybody going to be able to stop this man? And I just wanted to answer him and say, no, absolutely not. He is going to destroy everybody. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
After this, Ashton, didn't we get our women's tag team match?
Yes, we just jumped right into it, dude. It was crazy. We were moving through these matches, and this is kind of what threw me off because there were no real in between. It was just match. Commentary talks about it. Match. Commentary talks about, there was you didn't get time to breathe in between, and it might have thrown me for a little bit of a loop, but I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's so weird because I'll just put in perspective for everybody. Like every episode of NXT is like an hour. In this case, we watched it on the network. It was like 49 minutes, and it didn't even feel anything close to that. It felt like a 20-minute episode of NXT with how quick it was moving. I didn't feel the time at all. So yeah, we have Natalya and Charlotte versus Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And, you know, the babyfaces in Charlotte and Natalya had a very aggressive start. Natalya is just dominating everybody. You know, particularly I think it was Becky Lynch. Yeah, she was really taking her to task. And at one point, you know, she gets her on the outside, continues dominance there. Sasha's like screaming her head off, like, somebody do something! What's happening? And, you know, that wasn't working out. Finally, the heels do take control. I think Charlotte may have missed a maneuver on Becky. And Sasha finally gets a tag in. Heels are able to take control there. So it was a nice back and forth matchup. But really what was telling, they were really building up the team of Sasha and, or not Sasha, Charlotte and Natalya because, you know, the bloodline and the matches that they've had. And at one point, it seemed like they were turning the tide because Charlotte gets the tag, the hot tag, after Natalya gets isolated for a little bit. And Sasha also gets a tag, so they're going at it. And it seems like Charlotte and Natalya are going to do a double team clothesline. And, you know, that's missed. Becky Lynch gets pulled out. Sasha is able to catch Charlotte because Charlotte hits the ropes. She hits, it's not the bank statement, but it is her neck breaker. And she actually
what was the name for that? Was that Bankrupt? That's what it is.
Yeah, it was Bankrupt. Thank you, Ash. She gets Bankrupt. And yeah, she actually pins Charlotte. She even gets a little bit of tights, so it really protects Charlotte. But yeah, she pins her after the Bankrupt.
I absolutely loved this result. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say I love the match, but that's just because the match didn't really get enough time to be that OMG, this was amazing kind of match, like what Charlotte Sasha has tended to be over the course of the last month or so.
Right.
But it was still just the finish was perfect because you protect everybody.
Yeah, and they did it in such a brilliant way because again, you know, the heels were trying to go for that double clothesline, and Charlotte's able to, you know, get out of the way, and then Natalya was on the outside. She pulls Becky Lynch out, so I'm thinking, okay, it's 1-1. Charlotte's gonna get something, but then when Sasha evades Charlotte and gets the Bankrupt, I was like, man, you know, that's awesome. And like I said to you, contendership isn't far behind now for Sasha Banks at all.
Definitely.
So that's great. Yeah, I'm so just seeing her pin Charlotte, considering all the matches they've had lately, just put such a smile on my face. So you go, Sasha, go get that championship.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. The way that they did this with the tights grabbing is what really kind of put the icing on the cake for me, because if Sasha would have just straight up pinned Charlotte with a roll up after throwing her into the ropes and hitting Bankrupt, I might have been a little bit miffed because she hasn't pinned anybody with Bankrupt in a while. And I feel like the last time she did, it might have been like Alexa Bliss or somebody that isn't really on that same level.
Right.
But the fact that she used the tights was just perfect because and Charlotte didn't necessarily pop right up afterwards, but you could tell that she was with it enough that she probably would have kicked out had it not been for the tights. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too, dude, because, you know, not to take my little pod shots here, but of course that is exactly what I'm doing.
No, I know what you're going for. Natalya versus Nikki Bella on Raw.
Yeah, I mean, you know, roll up of death.
Or freaking this week, Paige versus Brie Bella on Raw.
Yeah, Paige versus Brie Bella, yeah. And this is how you put away a fellow women's
See, and
wrestler.
that's my thing. Like, I am almost... I'm going to go full conspiracy theory tard here on you, but I almost feel like the women on the main roster don't afford the women that they're working with the decency of a tight grab. A, because obviously then there's the risk of showing butt crack, and WWE is going to not let that happen, and they're going to be angry if it does. But also because then it makes them look better, and they're all just super catty on the main roster, and it's like they don't want to give anybody anything because they feel like if they give anyone an inch, they'll take a mile.
You know, if that is the case, then that only makes me applaud NXT even more for having such a selfless locker room.
Yeah.
Because they realize, hey, when you look good, I look even better.
Yeah.
And yeah, just great stuff. This was so well done. I can't wait. I mean, whether it's Sasha versus Charlotte versus Becky versus Bayley, or just another one-on-one matchup between Sasha and Charlotte, I don't care what it is. I'm looking forward to it. NXT Women's Division owns.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that own, we then get to our main event contest of the evening. Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville for the NXT Championship. You know, the funny thing is, when you see guys go one-on-one as many times as we've seen now, Adrian Neville versus Sami Zayn recently, you know there's going to be a certain amount of telegraphing that you do. And I almost feel like this match in its beginning kind of did a nod to that, because, you know, they were really, it was a slow burn to me in the beginning. They were doing the arm drags, they were doing the stuff, but I loved the story they were telling in this match, because they were so cautious at first. Sammy probably because it was his first NXT title defense, and Neville because he realizes, oh, I can't mess around with Sammy anymore. He has proven he can win the big one. So they're doing all this safe offense. But at one point, you know, Neville gets frustrated, and he shoves Sammy. And, you know, the Sammy kind of gives
this moment was so weird because I couldn't quite hear it because I had my volume low. John, can you explain what exactly happened at this point?
I think what happened was, because again, they were doing very conservative offense with the arm drags back and forth and stuff, and Neville just couldn't seem to get a grasp on Sammy, so he shoves him. The crowd kind of pops a little bit like, oh, like trouble's run, because they had just shaken hands at the beginning of the match.
Right.
And you see Neville showing this tension. And Zayn's kind of giving him this look like, well, what the hell was that? And Neville's like, I'm sorry. But then I love Sami Zayn here, because normally in any other matchup, you know that the guy that was the aggressor, in this case being Neville, probably would have, like, unleashed some offense. No, Sammy doesn't take that crap. He says, you're sorry, and he punches him in the face. Like, he gets a forearm to the face.
Yeah.
And Neville goes down to a knee. And he says, well, I'm sorry, too. And then Neville just explodes, and this is where our match really picks up, because Neville does his kicks, but Zayn is able to avoid the low drop kick. And, yeah, it's just all gears go from there. Neville sends Zayn out to the floor, does a dive out to the floor, which is very beautiful looking. And,
as always.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just go back and forth from there. I mean, what highlights do you want to pick? They did nice telegraphing with each other at one point in this match when Sammy was trying to go for the blue thunder bomb. You know, Neville had the headlock kind of stiffen him and did the elbows to the back of the head, but then Zayn tried grabbing the tights, but then Neville had that scouted too. But then I think Zayn ducked a clothesline or something, and that's how he was able to get the blue thunder bomb. So that was a nice variation of it. The Ranas that Neville nailed in this match multiple times, Zayn sold like death, and they looked like death to Neville's credit. There was one snap one that kind of reminded me of Rey Mysterio's West Coast Pop that only got a 2 count, but that was so nice looking.
Dude, at one point he had, it was a point when Zayn was going for a haluva kick, I believe, and Neville got out of the way, and then Zayn popped out, and Neville absolutely destroyed him with just a straight right hook. And then he transitioned right into that electric chair Rana that he does. And it must have taken Sami Zayn a full 30 seconds to recover from that. I mean, he kicked out at 2, but he was so out of it. And you could say he was milking it because at that point he did end up doing the inverted STO, followed up with the Koji, or attempted Koji clutch. But even then, he didn't have the strength to lock in the Koji clutch, and Neville was able to reverse it.
Absolutely, dude. I loved it. I love that these two were really able to scout each other, to know what was coming. The best moment in this match for me, oddly enough, because all those spots that we're talking about is great, and there was another point where Sammy seemed to be going for the Chimera Plex. He got the 2 Germans, but then Zayn landed on his feet before the trapped Tiger Suplex, or half Nelson Suplex rather. And
no, it's called the Chimera Suplex because it's half tiger, half dragon.
Right. But the best moment to me came when Neville was on the outside, I guess, trying to catch a breather. Zayn was on the other side, so he was going to do that through the ropes, DDT, and he goes to do it, and Neville nails a super kick square on the face to Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn, I gotta give him credit. He got trapped in the ropes, and he seemed to be in a good place for the Red Arrow, even though he still did a little bit of movement. So I was like, But, you know, that was a great moment to me that he just kicked him right there. Because I'm wondering, like, I would think to myself when Sami Zayn used to do the maneuver, like, I wonder what an ideal counter to that would be. And, welp, Neville answered that question. So he tries going for Red Arrow. I actually thought it would have been cool if they had him actually hit it after a super kick like that and Sami Zayn kicked out. But, honestly, maybe this was the better alternative because you don't want to make Sami Zayn seem too OP, and I guess they still want to protect the finisher, which is understandable.
Yeah.
So Neville lands on his feet, goes to the opposite corner. I think they still had that kind of back and forth you were talking about, Ashton, with the Rana and everything else.
Yeah.
Finally, Zayn does get the exploder suplex in the corner, follows it up with the haluva kick, gets the 3 count. Sami Zayn successfully defends the NXT Championship after another great bout between these two. But much like NXT TakeOver Our Evolution, the celebration was short-lived. Kevin Owens emerges throws Sami against the ropes, catches him, does the snap powerbomb, and then promptly puts his foot on Sami Zayn's throat. And then I love this, right? Because I've been talking about lately with Sami Zayn, like all these other people in programs, like, oh, pick up the title and pose the title. Kevin Owens doesn't do that. He just kicks it back to Sami Zayn.
Yeah, and you know what, dude? I love this because, like, who does Kevin Owens appeal to most? Your hardcore indie fan. And what is another thing that those hardcore indie fans have in common? They're all super marky about championships and their honor and the credibility. And Kevin Owens just completely turns the cheek on them, and he's just like, oh, this title? You think this has honor and credibility? Yeah, take this. And he just kicks it.
I love it, too, because first of all, he's a heel, so it makes sense. And second of all, it almost says to me, like, my wanting to hurt Sami Zayn means more to me than what he's carrying with him. I hate him. I don't care what he's packing with him. I just want to hurt him. And he's got his foot on Sami's throat. Just what Kevin Owens has been so consistently great at since he's come here, especially in his interactions with Sami Zayn, which is what I'm making, main reference to, is the atmosphere he's able to create. And he is so great at creating those lasting images, whether it was him turning heel and just walking away, just seething after he beat the crap out of Sami Zayn, or tonight when he's just got the foot on the throat and he just walks away. He burns that image into your mind, and he makes you never forget him,
Yep, exactly.
It's great. Absolutely brilliant. And he didn't do anything to Adrian Neville from what I recollect, because Adrian Neville just had enough. He's like, hey, you just take care of your business. I'm going to stay passed out over here.
Yeah, so, this seems to be setting up for a triple threat, and I think that you did tell me that when we were closing up as far as actually watching it goes, but I love that they are not rushing straight to the one-on-one Zayn versus Owens match, because that's what I said. I said, well, it looks like we're setting up for Zayn Owens. But no, NXT is going to be like, oh, you want Zayn versus Owens? Well, you're going to have to wait for that, because we're going to give you a triple threat first, and you're going to love that even more.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not even a case of you will take what we give you and you will like it, because it's like...
No, it's a case of literally, do you want this? Well, yeah. Well, do you want this? Yeah. Well, does it matter which one's first? No. Okay, well, then we're going to do what we want.
Yeah, pretty much, because from what I understand, and again, I always preface everything I say by taking these things with a grain of salt, but from what I read...
Because LOL dirt sheets.
LOL dirt sheets lose, is they are actually maybe committed to giving a full year build to Zayn Owens.
Yep. And hey, dude, that's just them copying ROH. It's that simple. And I'm not even saying that as like a negative thing. I think it's great because ROH captured some absolute magic when they did it. So, hey, you know what? If you want to keep Sami Zayn on NXT for another year and it means him feuding with Kevin Owens for that long, by all means, go for it. I don't care. I'll go for it, man. I don't just do it.
I don't
Let Sami Zayn debut at the Royal Rumble in 2016.
Honestly, for this feud, this is the only reason why Sami Zayn should be sticking around. Well, that and just NXT is brilliant, but I'm talking about from a pure technical standpoint, not being all marky. But I gotta say, at the risk of being hyperbolic, Zayn Owens may just be this generation's Triple H Shawn Michaels. Like, that's the kind of potential I see in these two locking up.
Because Triple H and Shawn Michaels were in a faction for the longest time in the WWE. If anything, Zayn Owens is going to be this generation's Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels.
I could see that too. Absolutely. Either way, I just think the matches are going to be legendary, and this feud overall is going to be legendary.
Oh, you just mean because they have like a bunch of matches with each other and are always amazing.
Oh, yeah, that intense rivalry. And plus, I mean, it would have been better if we actually saw a little bit of that interaction first. I mean, like you said, Triple H and Shawn Michaels had DX. I mean, one more needs to be said. But, I mean, considering, like, it was my brother, we hugged, we did all this, and then he just does that to me. I just think it's just going to be one of those really personal feuds that puts on consistently just great matches that we're going to be talking about this for years. That's really the potential I see in this. So, hopefully these guys don't prove me wrong. With that said, this was NXT. Do you have any other remarks you want to make about the show before we go into our next segment?
No, it's one of those things where I feel like we should have more to talk about, but hey, it's just when you only give us matches, we don't really have that much to talk about because it's not like we're going to go through the match, spot by spot and describe everything that happens because to me, that's more recap. And I'm not interested in recapping a show because if you want to know what happened on the show, you can just watch it. I would rather give our personal spin on it, and that's what I feel like we do best. So, it's difficult to kind of come up with enough content to fill a half hour, which I do. I try and keep our NXT reviews between a half hour and 45 minutes. That's kind of my goal for these, but I don't know. It just seems like NXT was more interested in giving us great matches tonight than giving us real, like, super awesome story build.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, as long as it's a rarity and it's something that happens like once every couple months, which seems to be the trend, go for it, NXT. You know, it's like, I'm not going to complain if you give me an hour of great matches.
Definitely. I definitely think we're going to be back on the story track next week, especially with how this episode ended. You know,
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, all of our more character-driven superstars were nowhere to be seen tonight. No Enzo and Cass, no Tyler Breeze, no Bayley. All that stuff was completely missing. I mean, I would even go as far as to say no Sylvester Lafort. You know, no tag teams at all on this show.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. And it was still a really great show.
All part of that rotation, baby. So with that said, our next segment, high spots and low shots. And my low shot is ever so delicious. Bull Dempsey.
Yeah.
You talked about, he's not the only undefeated person in this match, Devin. Well, guess what? He is now. So suck on that. You lost. And you lost big.
Yup.
So who's your low shot?
Oh man, it's kind of tough to say because I don't want to say Tyson Kidd because he still had a great match, and I don't really want to say Adrian Neville, but I think I'm going to have to because obviously it's not Becky Lynch or Natalya because neither one of them were involved in the pin. It's obviously not Sasha Banks because she won, and I don't think that I should make it Charlotte because she had to lose due to tights being pulled. So I think I'm going to have to go with Adrian Neville because this felt like his last opportunity in a while. Like I said, they might end up doing the triple threat at the next takeover, but I don't know, man. Like, the more I think about it, the next takeover is going to be in late February, right?
Right, that sounds about right.
Do you really think that they're going to use Adrian Neville? Yeah, you know what? I think they will, because I think that they're actually going to do a new set of tapings right before the Royal Rumble. So they'll have the whole set of tapings with Neville involved, and then Neville debuts at the Rumble, and then Neville's last NXT show will be the next takeover where he's in the triple threat. I love it.
Yeah, if it works out that way, that sounds brilliant to me. So yeah.
I'm gonna just go ahead and make Adrian Neville my low shot, but know that it's only in spirit. It's not like a pure I don't think he had a good night because he still had a great match. It's just he lost it, and it was for the NXT title. So, and he's still probably gonna end up getting another shot. He's just not gonna win it.
You know what? I'm going to have a last-second change of heart here for my high spot, because I was going to go one route, but I'm going to go another.
Who were you going to go with?
I was going to go with Sasha Banks originally.
Okay.
But I've decided I'm going to go with Kevin Owens.
And why did you not go with Sasha Banks?
Because Sasha had a great night, right? But she still had to get the tights and cheat to win a little bit. She won, and she's a heel, so, I mean, those tactics are to be expected. But still, if we're really being honest, I mean, having to cheat to beat the champion. But Kevin Owens, why I'm picking him. I mean, he was the guy that exercised the least amount of will tonight. You know, had the least to do, but he was the most memorable to me because, A, was the closing image, obviously, and B, kicking that championship, powerbombing Zayn, putting his foot on his throat, as if to say, Zayn, I can do this to you anytime I want. I own you.
Yep.
It's an emphatic statement, and Kevin Owens, to me, honestly, it's not even so much an excuse that, he had so little screen time. It's the biggest compliment because he did the most with it. He had maybe a few minutes to close the show, and he was more memorable, I think, than any full-on matchup or anything like that because he just has that presence. He just exudes that kind of character. Kevin Owens is somebody, he is going to own 2015 wherever he is, NXT, or I don't think he'll get called up, obviously, but whatever he's doing, he's going to own it. So Kevin Owens is my high spot.
I dig it. I'm going to say my high spot is Finn Balor with an obvious honorary mention going to Sasha Banks because she defines... She really does define what a heel should be in 2014.
Definitely.
2015, oh my god.
I know, dude. I've had that so many times today where I'm thinking, 2014. No, it's 2015. Stop. That's so bad. But, dude, I completely agree with you. And I think, and I know this is going to sound bad, but I only say it because you know how WWE handles them. Especially by women's standards, Sasha just owns it so well. Because by WWE standards right now, the top heel, for all intents and purposes, is Nikki Bella. And she can't even always cut a heel promo, as was evident by what she did on SmackDown.
Oh, no. She can. She just doesn't always choose to.
Exactly, which is a bunch of crap.
I mean, Nikki Bella is so capable of cutting a heel promo that all she would really need to do is just talk as herself, and it would be a heel promo.
That's so true. That and having the fearless crap on her attire and everything, because that doesn't communicate.
Through these fearless eyes? Shut up, you dumb skank.
I wanted to go one episode without exploding. I couldn't do it. But yeah, dude, like, I totally pick up what you're laying down here about Sasha, because I look at her, and it makes me sound like such a catty bitch, but it's true. Like, I look at her, and I look at most of the main roster women, and I'm sorry, they're completely preschool. Like, get on Sasha's level, for God's sakes.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my mini rant for the evening.
But, like I said, though, she's my honorary mention. My honorable mention, my actual high spot is Finn Balor, because he owns the crowd every single time he steps out into the general viewing area of the crowd. Like,
Right.
If he's visible, the crowd is in the palm of his hand. It's that simple. Like, he has the presence, he has the look, he has the charisma, he has everything. And he's obviously he won his match tonight, which is kind of like the main kind of thing for whether somebody's a high spot or not. But yeah, he's a god amongst men.
Future WrestleMania moment is Finn Balor. Absolutely. So with that said, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans by wrestling fans on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. What did you think of Sami Zayn and Adrian Neville's latest NXT Championship bout? Do you think that Sasha Banks deserves another crack at the NXT Women's Championship? Be sure to carry this discussion over to Pweetoff, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook, and we will see you again for our Lucha Underground review, where the new champion, Prince Puma, I'm certain, will address the crowd. See you there, guys.